Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Psycho Comics number 2 from 1981, published by Look Mom Comics. Look Mom Comics, I think, only lasted a couple of years. It was basically a bunch of young, untried cartoonists wanted to put out something, so they made this little publisher to get their comics out there. A common story. But in this case, those young, struggling artists were Dan Clowes, Rick Altergott, Mort Todd. So it's like, wow, this is but they're not good when they were this age. Dan Clowes was still in college. I think they all were in college, in art school. And as you can see by this Dan Clowes cover, it's unrecognizable as Dan Clowes. It's pretty bad, actually. I almost see a little Dan Clowes there, but more I see Harvey Kurtzman. I kind of don't mind that face, but this is terrible. That's ugly stuff. As you can see, this whole comic is kind of hearkening back to the genre days of the 50s when there's no more superheroes, or at least nobody cared anymore. So crime, romance, horror, it's got all these old-timey genres, but of course it's got a very skewed, weird, a very weird, skewed look at these comics. This kind of lives up to its name, Psycho Comics. It's some high weirdness in this comic. I'm sorry, guys, it came out in 1982. So we have the contents page. Dan Clowes was the editor, and not just the names I mentioned, there's other guys in this who went on to greater fame, like Gene Fama, P. Redding. P. Redding didn't have much fame, but he's probably the best guy in this comic. I guess he was a little ahead of the curve. As you can tell, all the graphic design there is pretty crappy. They didn't know what they were doing. It's all kind of slipshod and whatever. So we start off with Heartbreak Honeymoon, and this is a very twisted romance comic. Written by Dr. Otto Lindsay, and artwork by Dan Clowes. It says lettered by Chick Chumley, but that's Dan Clowes. So it looks like a typical romance comic, except this woman who's getting married has a dark secret, and she feels terrible about going through with this wedding and subjecting this poor, nice guy to her dark secret. We have a flashback how she met the guy. They fell in love instantly, whirlwind romance. He asked her to marry him, and even though she wanted to say no, she said yes. She was so in love with him. So on their wedding night, she makes her confession. And she's apologized. She says, I should have told you before we got married, but I'm a necrophiliac. And she says, I'll leave now. There's some actually nice stuff here going on. That hair. Every now and then there's something interesting where it's just okay, that's not so bad. But then some of the faces are just gross. So the husband, though, says, I love you. We'll make this marriage work somehow. He takes cold showers so he can seem like a corpse. And finally, it doesn't work. She says it's just not the same. So she decides to take a weekend away from him to go on a little trip, a clearer mind and stuff, sort things out. And when she comes back, she finds Link, her husband, lying dead on the bed with a bottle of poison, emptied poison bottle. And there's a note that says, I'll always love you, darling. And she starts weeping in happiness. She says, I love you too, dear, you sweet, wonderful fool, now and forever. It's a great ending. I love how, he killed himself out of sorrow. But she thinks it was some act of love, oh, now you can really love me, because I'll be dead. Really good story, at least the ending. This next one's called Sap. This is a great crime story. It says, writer Eel O'Brien, that's the Plastic Man's nom de plume. It's Mort Todd who draws this. And it's inked by Pete Friedrich. even though it says Pete Fried. And look at this great little homage to Jack Cole. So we meet this guy. His name's Jimmy Nix Fit. And he's a mugger. He's a ruthless. He's a sociopath. And he mugs this woman one night. And I guess she tells the cops. And I don't think this is proper procedure, but they bring her along when they arrest him to ID him maybe. And she realizes the squalor he lives in. I guess she's a bleeding heart liberal. And she says, oh, wait, I don't want to press charges. I'm going to drop the charges. I'll give him a job in my store. Maybe I can turn him around. Of course, the cop says, he's going to turn on you, ma'am. Don't do it. I like some of these panels. And, of course, he is just waiting for the moment to rob the store. So he has a foolproof plan. He needs an alibi. He's going to go to the bar. Then he's going to sneak back in the back alley and sneak in the back window. After he's going to go to the bathroom, then leave the bar through the window, come in through the window at the grocery store. So everyone will think, oh yeah, that guy was at the bar. He just took a shit for a while. So she's there. And the reason why it's called sap is because he thinks anyone who's kind, he calls a sap. And then right then, before he can, tell her his plan, these two armed robbers come in. And he leaps into the air. In his mind, he's thinking, no, the money's mine, you fuckers. And he's going to stop them. They shoot him dead. And then, I love this irony. The cops come. And she's like, he tried to protect me. And, of course, the robber who they arrest, one of the robbers, he says, no dame is worth getting killed over. What a sap. Nice twist. If these were only drawn and written better, the writing in almost all of these is really bad. Beyond just normal bad. Bad typos and misspellings and really fucked up grammar and syntax. It's just not very good. But the actual plots I love this twist ending. Next, we have a young Rick Altergott, A Woman Knows. And look at this. It's almost like he's trying to be more Drucker back then. And it's kind of good in a weird, wonky way. So it's another romance type story. The narrator. Oh, did you notice how Rick Altergott uses that EC font? And it's narrated by a woman, this woman here, who got married to this guy, Brud. And she thought it was very weird. Brud was acting very strange at the wedding. And she starts feeling creepy as they head out for their honeymoon. She's just uneasy. And she really starts feeling uneasy when she sees him. She looks out the window and sees him talking to these weird-looking, kind of beatnik-looking film crew guys. Because it's bad luck to see her groom. Look at that. He's already doing that Wally Wood. That could be a Wally Wood head of hair. And she thinks it's weird. And she asks him about it. He just says, they're just a bunch of old pals. And then he says, why don't you get ready for bed? And she's also kind of nervous and scared because she's a virgin. And then all of a sudden she hears these noises from the other room. Roll sound, speed, roll camera. And action. And she's like, my worst fears are confirmed. Brett is the insane director of snuff films. This is the worst twist, the stupidest twist ending ever. So I guess it's a horror, more of an EC horror. He dedicates it to Wally Wood, which makes sense. You can see he's got these great chops already, burgeoning chops going on. But it's all kind of I don't know, something's off about it. But that's... Some of these faces, the caricatured faces, are pretty damn good. But also a little off. So next we have Dogman Plays Dead, and this is by Gene Fama. And this is some weird looking stuff, as you can see. Very interesting style. Gene Fama didn't draw like this, later on. He kind of got more boring, actually. I've never been a big Gene Fama fan. Well, actually, he's not bad. He's pretty good. But this is kind of interesting. I kind of like this weird shit. So this is the Crypt Keeper-like character who introduces a lot of stories. I can't remember his name. He's like Psycho Dude or something. And he tells us the tale of little Rupert. His mom ran out. He was left with his aunt, who was a sadistic freak. She made Joan Crawford look like a model parent. And so he runs off to join the circus. And I guess he sneaks in, and they're looking for him. They're like, hey, there's some kids running around. And here's the owner of the circus, the ringmaster, Mr. Bardov. And he sees some kind of shady deal going down. So that's why they're looking for him. So he sneaks into this little structure, and he finds Dogman. And this is called Dogman Plays Dead. And he helps the kid out. He says, come on, get in here, kid. I'll help you hide. And so he kind of adopts the kid, and the kid grows up in the circus. Dogman tells him his story. He used to be a rich, good-looking guy. And he was a business associate with Bardov. Bardov was romancing his wife, Dogman's wife, Talia, hoping to get his money. And he wants to kill him, typical shock suspense story style. And she says, oh, he's got some kind of will or something, or marriage contract, where I'll never get a cent if he dies before he's 55. So instead of killing him, they hired a plastic surgeon to deform him and turn him into this Dogman. And they put him in the circus so Ivan Bardov could keep an eye on him, wait until he turns 55, and he just turned 55. So now they're sharpening the knives. They've waited all this time, Talia and Bardov. And I guess part of the act, he's almost like a geek. People throw tomatoes at him. And they put cyanide-laced razor blades in all the tomatoes. That's how they're going to kill him. So this other freak, overhears, he doesn't know who, but he overhears that they're going to kill a freak. So just like the movie Freaks, he tells all the other freaks. He says, we got to stick together. And then finally they find out it's Dogman that they're going to kill. But it's too late. And Dogman gets pelted with these razor blade infused tomatoes. And then Rupert, the kid who's now grown up, he goes berserk. And he kills, it looks like he's going to kill Bardov. And of course, in typical shock ending, he is now the new ringmaster. And he turned Bardov into a Dogman. Just like the end of Freaks with the chicken lady. Next we have Together at Last. And this is Pete Friedrich doing everything. He's got this very, it looks very early 80s to me. Like a Patrick Nagel. The Patrick Nagel drew comics. But he's got some chops here. Like, look at, that's the host again. Oh, I'm sorry. This actually says... Oh, the script on this is Dr. Otto Lindsay, sorry. And Chet E. Perford. The art is by Pete Friedrich. Another really odd story. All these stories just seem off kilter, like they were written by insane people. This one I don't even think I really understand. This woman seems to be stalking some man that she finds beautiful and she's in love with. And like I had to reread some of these pages like over and over, like, wait, where does what panel goes where? That doesn't make sense, so I'll try another way. And it turns out we realize that she's in a wheelchair. We couldn't tell on the first page. And I guess the irony is that her wheelchair snags on the rug and she falls out the window and lands right on the object of her affection, this guy, and they're fused together. So I guess they'll be together for all eternity in the grave. It's so fucking weird. Next is Tales My Father Told Me, and this is Dad. He's the other co-host. Now this is by a guy named Joe Kurzweil. Kurzweil, yeah. And it's kind of these kids are listening to records. Dad comes in and he says, "Oh, let me tell you about bands. I used to be a bass player for this great combo called the Hamburgers. And we met this guy. His name is Ward, quote unquote, Leatherface Guine. And when we got him as our singer, we took off." So they become more and more popular. And they meet the Ventures. The Ventures invite them to go to Japan and play with them. There's this weird little orphan kid that they adopt kind of and take him on tour. And I guess the narrator, Dad, he goes out to get some food or something, or drinks. And when he comes back to the dressing room, Leatherface Guine has eaten all of his bandmates. I never suspected he was a ghoul. And then the last panel is him. He says, that night the Ventures played a super set. The Hamburgers, however, were forced to cancel their appearance. Ha ha ha! And he laughs uncontrollably. Of course, the kids are just like, oh, fuck. This guy's fucked up. Next, we have Buster Learns the Hard Way. This story is fucked up. Written by Rick Altergott and Dr. Otto Lindsay, and illustrated by Dan Clowes. And this is it's kind of a parody of those public service announcement comics. So we see Buster, kind of a loser, and always striking out with the ladies. And he's got this little friend, this kind of nerd friend. I think actually he's the narrator. Maybe? And they go into the local soda shop owned by Stinky. And the nerd leaves. And this guy at the soda shop, Ace, he says, "Hey, how'd you like to be turned on?" He hands him a joint. And pretty soon he's smoking all the time. A little after that, he's doing all kinds of drugs. He's sniffing glue. He's taking LSD. And every time he takes drugs, though, it makes his life better. He's like, this test will be a cinch now that I'm wired on acid. And Buster starts hating his little nerd friend. He's becoming a cool drug user. The girls that used to turn him down are now like, you seem more interesting now since you've started taking drugs. And the nerd friend goes to his parents and says, I think you should know Buster has a drug habit. And the parents are like, yes, Lars, we know. It's done so much for him. We think it's great. And so Lars is involved in an auto accident. He ends up in an iron lung, but his concern for Buster never wanes, even though it's really just like this jealousy. He keeps calling Buster. He's like, come on, you can still lick your drug problem. And Buster just keeps saying, stop calling me. I'll call the police. His only problem is that he has too many girls to keep track of. And he is valedictorian when he graduates. And he starts selling drugs and he becomes rich too. Lars, on the other hand, just dies sad and alone. So they call up Buster to tell him, and he doesn't even care. Yet Buster learned his lesson the hard way. And it says, for more information on how you can obtain narcotics, contact Narcotics R Us, Stinky's Chocolate Shop, Al's Ups and Downs. So they're every single genre of comic they're skewering. So next we have Goodbye My Love, and this is all Mort Todd. And Psychopath is the name of this narrator. All this art is just really bizarre. And this is this story's fucking weird. So we start off, and we're at a fancy restaurant. The woman's saying, "Thank you for coming tonight. I think it's important for you to meet the man who took me away from you." And the man's thinking, "I still can't believe she's mine anymore. But I'll make this a night they'll never forget." She moved out, now she's gonna marry this boy. She says, "You and Kent are so much alike. You'd be good friends under different circumstances." And then she says, Kent, to her fiance, "This is my father, Winston." And the surprise he had planned for him? A check so they could buy a new house. Such a weird story. So you think like she's this cruel woman who's like, "I want you to meet the guy replacing you." But it turns out to be your dad. There's something very disturbing about this. So this is kind of interesting art here, all this shaded pencil. And this one's called Dad Takes a Wife. And even Grand Comic Database doesn't know who drew this or wrote it. It's unknown. And this one's fucking weird. And so this little kid saying, "I don't want to be taken to Uncle Art's, Mom. Don't make me, don't let him babysit me." So he shows up. He seems like a really creepy guy. And he says, "I'm going to tell you about the night how your dad and Mom met." And so I guess Uncle Art grew up with his father. His father totally fell in love with the mom as soon as he saw her. But then because of that, he kind of drops his friends, and it really pissed off Art. One night, I guess the husband's busy. Well, the future husband. And he says, "Hey, would you do me a favor, buddy? Would you, Art, would you drive my girlfriend? She needs a ride to, I don't know, some town right over." So he does some modifications to his car, and he took her for a long route. The girl starts getting sleepy, and she totally passes out because he fucked up with the exhaust so it would go into the car. They don't explain how come he doesn't get sleepy, but she gets asphyxiated, kind of carbon monoxide-ish. And then he takes her into a bush, and he takes advantage of her because she's passed out. She wakes up none the wiser, and then a few months later, or a little while later, she finds out she's pregnant. So the kid's dad has to marry the mom, shotgun wedding. And he says, "Imagine their surprise when your mom had a miscarriage." Well, that's what you get when you betray your lifelong buddies. Besides, you were born before too long anyways. By the way, Billy, would you like to meet your younger brother? I think that's a typo. I think he means his older brother, the one that was the miscarriage. And the kid freaks out just as the mom's getting home. And she says, "Gee, Art, whatever gotten to Billy?" And he says, "I don't know. All I did was offer him these stewed tomatoes," and it says Art Jr. It's so disgusting. So the miscarriage, he has in a jar, and he's claiming they're stewed tomatoes. This stuff is really fucked up. This is like probably more fucked up than 99% of the undergrounds I've looked at. I like this splash page here. Here's Terror Trauma. Once again narrated, or at least hosted, by a psycho, what's his name? Pat. Now this says that GCD says they don't know who drew this. But this is pretty obvious Rick Altergott again, right? This looks just like that other story. Look at that woman's face. That totally could be Mort Drucker. Well, if Mort Drucker was a drunk. So we meet Harry Wilson. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. He returns the book to the library. The librarian there, she couldn't have children. She feels cheated by nature. But Harry starts flirting with her, and she's loving it. And something about him she's totally attracted to. It's love at first sight. So they have a rapturous, blissful few weeks of steamy, hardcore sex. And then Harry asks her to marry him. Harry asks Jane to marry him. Once again, using that EC font. God, there's so many misspellings in here. Jeopardized. Well, as jeopardized as she felt. And one day he feels a little logy, he says, after they get married. The doctor says, it's such a weird panel here. He says, amazing, you've got a tumor the size of a melon growing in the back of your head. Ha, ha, ha. And he's laughing. So he was rushed to the hospital. They extracted the tumor. And it turns out, the doctor says, you're a father. The tumor was a teratoma. They spell it teratoma. And it was an unborn fetus. And through some convoluted thing, his brother was gestating in his skull his whole life. And that was born. So, this baby, Harry Jr., Harry realizes why she loved him so much. She could almost sense a child in him, since she couldn't bear one. And as soon as the baby was born, Harry was left an unloved, soulless husk of a man. So he just runs into the street, buys a bottle of Night Train, and begins his new life of loneliness and despair. Many of these words misspelled that I just told you. But this is pretty sharp stuff. That actually looks like a swipe of Jack Davis or something. Fucking weird story. Here's one of those little short stories like they used to have in old comics. And this is twisted as fuck. Since it's not a comic, I'm not going to really describe it to you. To be honest, I'm not really even sure. It's just perverse and weird. And I'm not quite sure what's happening in this story. Let me see if we have a credit for it. I love the title of it, though. It's called The Case of the Horseless Headman. So now we have A Taste of Your Own Medicine. Everything by Pete Friedrich. And this is also, Pete Friedrich is not good at setting up a story. This jumps around in all these confusing ways. The writing is so, I don't know, stilted and weird. Where, God, this panel alone, I had to like read it like this, then be like, oh no, wait, it goes here. And then it still didn't make any sense. And so what I've gleaned from this story, this is the present. We see this guy getting mugged, this young tough, who calls him Honky. He says, the police can't touch us. We underage. And I know what you do in your office. You killed my mama. So now he thinks back to his wife. He was a successful doctor. She was a pretty successful economist. They were both beautiful and young, and they got married. They lived in New York City, living a jet-set life, going to fancy parties all the time. And once again, I had to read this so many times. It's so just bad writing. So I guess she got pregnant, and they gave up the child for adoption. They forbade her from ever seeing the child again. And I guess she saw the baby for a second before they took her away. She could never forget because he had a natural astigmatism, inducing one iris to remain larger than the other. See, the baby's got these weird eyes. And then it says, so then you decide to go to medical school. Which, they already said he's a doctor. I think. I don't know. The writing's so bad, I can't tell. And So his name's Rod, by the way. And I guess Rod's brother practices ethical law. And he realizes now that he's a doctor that he could make so much more money if abortion was illegal. Then he could perform back alley abortions for a lot of money. So he convinces his brother, who's an ethical law guy, to get the law changed. It doesn't say he's a senator or a congressman, and it works. So abortion is outlawed, and he starts his thriving business. Meanwhile, his wife has started, she fell in love with this cop, this handsome cop. She's having an affair with him. She gets pregnant, and they're both like, God damn Rod, he made abortion illegal. I can't get an abortion now. And she knows that all of Rod's friends, if she went to them, they would tell Rod, because it's the cop's baby. So she finds some back alley, like in the underground classified. She finds some back alley abortion clinic. She figures nobody will know them. It's way up in like upper Manhattan, like the bad part. So she goes, she looks through the peephole, she offers the money, and then right then, the cops bust in as she's having her abortion. So I guess he's done this before. He's like, the jig's up. I better gas her so she can't, point the finger at me. So he cranks the anesthesia, kills her. And of course, the cop on this case, the detective, it's her lover. And all he can do is he blows his brains out. He can't picture living without her. And then we go back outside where, to the present, Rod is getting mugged by that young tough. And it turns out he's his long-lost son because he's got that astigmatism with the weird eyes. And the cops blow him away. It's just, it's fucking nuts. The story is, it's really, but not nuts in like a crazy, interesting, fun way. It's like nuts in a really incompetent, annoying way. This is interesting. This is an ad for, I guess they had like a heavy metal type magazine or, just sci-fi, serious. What's it called here? The Previous Future, it's called. I don't know if this ever came out, but it does look like Rick Altergott's doing his best Wally Wood in some of these. Next, we have Mimi the model in Mimi Goes Psycho. This is a script and pencils by Mortad, inks by Dan Clowes. So this is almost like a parody of those like Millie the model type things, where kids are sending them their fashion ideas for Mimi. They're all kind of crazy. Wait a second. Okay. So Mimi goes to this casting agent's office, and I guess they're trying to start some like Playboy type magazine. I think it's called Play Psycho or something, or Psycho Boy. And Mimi's pretty hot. So they're all like, like Tex Avery style. And she's like, I won't be nude though. Oh, and by the way, the editors of this magazine, it's Pete Friedrich, Dan Clowes, and Mortad, but they all have silly names. C.D. Friedman, Dan Clown, who actually looks like a clown, and Tort Mod. So I guess Tort Mod is smooth with the ladies. And he kind of smooths over her fears. He says, oh, you won't have to be nude, baby. We're just doing like classy, whatever poses. So she changes into the outfit they have for her. And it's just total crazy, like Eric Stanton get up. And she says, well, at least there's no nudity. So dumb. Here's the letter page. Someone writes in to say, yeah, I got the copy of your magazine, number 1, I just threw it away. It's pretty scathing, but I can't disagree. So here's P. Redding. And I think this is the most accomplished strip in here, even though it's kind of crude. P. Redding went on to do all these random strips in, kind of semi-undergrounds. Maybe he was in some undergrounds, but interesting cartoonist. Like, I love the way he draws that woman, and this guy's face looks cool. So this is called Mystery Valentine. And this kid grows up really ugly. Everyone hates him. And then one day, he sees his dream woman. Actually, he visualized his dream woman and got a tattoo of her. And then one day, he finds out she actually exists. It's in the newspaper. Turns out she's a mass murderess, though. So he gets a job in the prison. He's going to free her. And he kills some guards, and they escape on his motorcycle. And as soon as she gets on his motorcycle, she stabs him in the back. It's a stupid wimp. Once again, just another weird fucking thing. So next we have The Squirt. And this is the first appearance of Freddie Brown, who over the years, Mort Todd and Dan Clowes would make a few more strips and much better strips. This is kind of better than that first story as far as Dan Clowes drawing cartoony. This doesn't look as bad as like the cover art and stuff. So Mort Todd's story, Dan Clowes art. Once again, Chick Chumley letters. So if you've never read these Freddie Brown stories, he's just a total brat. It's like kind of Dennis the Menace. They're kind of fun. And his mother is talking to the priest, and she's saying how, I think we should have a meeting about how bad these comic books are for children. So she says, run along, Freddie. I'm talking to the priest. So he's running around the church with his little squirt gun. And he says, oh, I'm out of ammo. Hey, look over there. So Freddie gets sent up to his room. And he's reading comic books. And I guess he's listening to a record of the Itsy Bitsy Spider, a little kid's record. And there's a skip. So the skip is making it sound like some weird nonsense word. And wash the spide, splash da click, splash da click. Just keeps going over and over. And he makes it louder to annoy his mom. But unbeknownst to him, it's awakening something long dead. This incantation. And this demon pops up right in Freddy's room. Kind of like that face there. That's good cartooning. And he says, free at last. He says, ever since my followers were destroyed, no one has worshipped me. With no believers, I was banished to a hellish limbo. But hearing my name chanted, I can return once again to rule over Earth. And once he sees it's just a record, he gets angry. He's like, what? And Freddy's furious. He's like, you broke my record player. And Freddy pulls out his squirt gun and squirts the demon, and he starts burning. He says, the pain. And he dissolves into nothing. And then right then his father shows up, and he grabs him, and he says, you're in big trouble, young man. And someone from church just called me. They said that you filled up your water gun with holy water. Wah, wah, wah. I definitely like this more than anything else by Dan Clowes in here. So here's the special bonus insert. So I don't get Look Mom comics. They just seem all over the place. So I guess this is a preview of this Totally Intense Tales. And apparently they had like a cable TV thing. And these are supposedly going to be TV shows, which sounds like total bullshit. The Ultimates and Acrobattler. So it's basically just this little preview. These are really bad. Mort Todd does the first one, Acrobattler. And you could totally see his love of Steve Ditko. This seems like a character that Steve Ditko would have invented. Typical union suit wearing superhero. Very dumb story. Poorly told, poorly drawn. But it is really just trying to be kind of a straight superhero story. I mean, there's a few little sardonic quips here and there, but for the most part, it's just really bad. Like a bad fanzine, superhero fanzine. Next we have the Ultimates, who are a rock band who get into all these adventures. And this is equally horrible. I don't know who drew this. It doesn't say on GCD. So, I don't really care though. It's so bad. It's so dull. Oh, so bad. And that's it. Except for, oh, it's just an ad. So there you go, guys. Psycho Comics number 2. I'm so on the cusp of getting rid of this. I did look on the internet. I realized none of these are even for sale. And the fact that it's, one of Dan Clowes' earliest published works, I'm pretty, if I could find out that I can get 100 or more bucks for this, this is out. I do appreciate just how fucking weird it is. But it's also kind of annoying how inept and crude it is. But I gotta say, some of these stories were, I just thought, great little twists. Almost all of the art is kind of hard to look at, except for the Rick Altergott stuff, and that's not that great. But for now, I guess I'll keep it in the Academy. But if anyone wants to offer me 200 bucks for this, I'll get rid of it in a second, in a heartbeat. It's definitely not worth that. I could buy $200 worth of good comics for this. But it's definitely a curio. It's definitely an interesting thing to see. In fact, God, I just can't get over how bad Dan Clowes was. Well, I mean, obviously, nobody's great when they're that young, but better than this. This would be bad if it was a 14-year-old. So, there you go, guys. Psycho Comics number 2. Hope you enjoyed looking at it with me. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.